Deutschland!
Hello! It is time to spiel about Wilhelmein, Germany.
Ja, Wilhelmein, Germany.
Our favourite Kaiser, who was alive during the 20th century. Isn't that true, Nathan?
Ja.
So, you may have enjoyed the wonderful Prussian national anthem.
I hope you did.
I certainly did. It made me want to go and fight for the country.
A little tear did fall down my face as I thought about the lost Prussian Empire. But anyway, we're moving on to episode 3. This is where things get serious. If you missed episode 1 and 2, don't worry about it too much. That was just background. This is when things really get heated up.
It's true.
So
we left you at the dismissal of Busy himself.
Yes.
Otto von Bismarck.
Sad day. He was a bit conservative. So do you think we're going to be taking a new direction at all? What do you think this new direction might take us? What do you think it might be called?
Who could it by any chance be called the new course?
I think it might be.
Could it be called the new course?
Yes, it's quite a short new course, only 4 years, but it's quite an interesting little time in Wilhelmine history, I would say.
Under Councillor Caprivi himself.
Yeah, so Caprivi is the new Chancellor.
Appointed in 1890.
Yep. And it became increasingly difficult for Bismarck to get things passed in the Reichstag. The Conservatives are losing support, and that's who his natural bedfellow
was.
Yeah, that's what his base was. So Caprivi thought, I can't really rely on just Conservative support. I need to turn towards a few of the other political parties in the Reichstag. One of them was the Centre Party. Do you want to just talk a little bit about them?
Yeah, the ZP, who in future episodes we will have massive beef with.
But at the moment
they're fine. The ZP, the Catholic Party. A
sizable minority in Germany.
Exactly. And they were relatively centrist, so certain things were more liberal and others were less. For example, perhaps a less one, Caprivi passed through a banning of Sunday work, but equally he prohibited employment of under 13s.
Yeah, a lot of, and generally things that were good for workers.
Limited female working hours to more than 12 hours a day. Cue Richard Ness's sexism. More progressive income tax for the lender. And they set up industrial courts to arbitrate. Is that the right word? Yep. Disputes between industry and the workers themselves.
And okay, a key. We've kind of covered a good bit of Caprivi's policies there, but I think a key one, the big one, is the tariff policy. German industry, increasingly important, exports, big part of the German economy, but we don't really have free trade at that point. And a big bit of Caprivi's business was to negotiate trade treaties with Austria-Hungary, Italy, Russia, and a number of smaller countries, in fact, which meant that Germany could export things without tariffs. Without having to pay tariffs, and similarly these countries could export goods to Germany, which is good for Germans because cheaper bread.
Yep.
They didn't have to pay so much.
Just good for freedom.
Good for freedom. Good for German industry, and it was a more flexible system. And initially, the Kaiser was pretty happy with this, to be honest, because it was good for Germans, which made him popular, made Caprivi popular. However,
the Conservative fiends or friends, depending on your leaning.
I'd go with fiend.
Fiend for me personally,
or a stronger word, but I won't use it now.
But yeah, they were not unhappy due to the loss of profit. They were no longer protected by those.
They can no longer sell things to the German public really expensively and know what they couldn't import goods. In general, it was not supported his new course so much by the landowners or the military, as Caprivi had made concessions, for example, in the Army Bill of 1893, which reduced national conscription from 3 to 2 years. So this sort of... And it was always tempting for the Conservatives to just label him as socialist, because he had compromised with the Social Democrats over the kind of the good things for the workers. So in 1894, unfortunately, for me anyway, I quite like Caprivi, bit of a liberal, always like a bit of that. We see the end of Caprivi no longer has the support of Wilhelm, and as we mentioned, the Chancellor's role is really dependent on the support of the Kaiser.
Wilhelm II pressed Caprivi into drawing up anti-socialist laws, and he resigned.
So 1894, the end of Caprivi, and we move on to a new Chancellor. Are we going to move it on to a new chancellor in this episode or in the next episode?
We're going to do them all in this episode.
Oh,
I
good,
hope.
good work.
We'll see how far we can get.
We'll at least get us up to 1900. Okay, so the next chancellor, Remy?
Is Hohenlohe.
Hohenlohe.
It's a tough one.
He's a bit of an insignificant one, to be honest. He's a bit old, I believe.
Yeah, he worked for 6 years, however.
He was chancellor for 6 years, but some big changes came in under his chancellorship. Whether they were really his ideas, it's a bit hard to tell. The big one in 1897, Remy, we mentioned it, I believe, episode 2. What is that big idea of 1897, which really came?
Was it Weltpolitik?
I believe it was.
Flottenpolitik?
3 men were really involved in this. Well, 3 in the government anyway.
Bülow was one.
Von Bülow, Foreign Secretary.
Yep.
You'll hear a lot about him later.
You will. Admiral von Tirpitz.
Naval Secretary.
Yep.
And he became quite big in the Navy League, who were another important group in Germany.
That's true.
And Count Posadowski Wiener, who you don't really need to remember, so we'll gloss over him.
Yeah.
So, what was Weltpolitik really, Remy?
Well, the Kaiser wanted to fill what he thought was Germany's destiny through colonial acquisition, increasing economic spheres of influences, and general expansion of German might and power around the world.
It's a bit of a slippery term. It doesn't really mean anything specifically, but it's just generally about German imperial ambitions, to be honest.
An important addition to Weltpolitik and Flottenpolitik was the Navy bills passed in 1898 and 1900, which actually had the support of the Centre Party.
Yeah.
And they generally just vastly expanded the size of the Navy, which again will lead to the arms race of Britain in the coming years.
A big part of Weltpolitik was those naval wars you mentioned, and one group of people who were definitely happy about this were the industrialists, growing in importance. They loved the fact that the German government was now spending lots of money building ships, which they could make lots of money out of.
To the extent that the Hohenlohe actually had a large support of a large cross section of political parties,
because he had all the conservatives with him. Obviously, big conservative thing to imperial advancement, but also, as you mentioned, ZP, who the Reich, who busy hadn't really got support of.
Exactly.
So he's got a big cross section there. But 1900, we see the end of Hohenlohe. I'm not sure if he died or just resigned. I can't say either way.
That is a bit of homework that you guys can do.
But one thing I can tell you for sure is that we saw Von Bülow, who we just mentioned a few minutes ago, Foreign Secretary. He becomes the Chancellor in 1900.
He does, and I think we should make this a bumper episode. It'll be, instead of splitting it into 2, we can just make it into 1.
We are going to go through Von Bülow, or we're going to hit it all the way to 1999.
We shall do.
Okay, right.
So in fact, look, my notes, it says Hohenlohe resigned because he was tired of being ignored.
Which is fair enough.
Yep.
I'd advise that some of the teachers at Borlase should maybe take the same. Whoa. Is that a bit of a controversial
I have
thing
no
to say?
idea what he's talking about. I have no idea what he's talking about.
So he did try and introduce a few of the social reforms we saw under Caprivi. We see an extension of accident insurance, a few more. The law system, like the industrial court system, is expanded to ensure that people, if they have a problem with their employer, they can go to the courts and deal with it.
So he kind of tried to revive and extend the new course.
However, Von Bülow is, at heart, I feel anyway, a bit of a conservative.
Yes.
And just as tariffs, we mentioned tariffs on the Caprivi, those were a big thing. He managed to reduce the tariffs majorly, more flexible free trade system. And Von Bülow had to decide in 1902, because the tariff trade deals that had lowered the tariffs were coming up for renewal.
Yeah.
What was he going to do about it, and what did he do about it, Remy?
He compromised.
Basically, a compromise.
He compromised.
Yeah. We see on his left, the left liberals, and the SPAD, the socialists. They wanted lower tariffs because that was good for ordinary people, because they could buy imports cheaply, bread, things like that.
Yeah.
But the Conservatives were not so keen, because cheap imports were bad for them, because they couldn't sell things to the German people expensively. They'd be flooded out the market. And the Centre Party was the kind of bit in the middle, I think, to be honest.
Hence their name.
Hence the name of the Centre Party. But they kind of sided a bit more with the right wingers, so he had to kind of compromise to get the support, to get enough support in the right.
So ultimately, he raised the tariffs.
He raised the tariffs a little bit, but not as much as the right wing wanted.
Fair enough.
So,
which bring us on to the 1905 budget. An important one. It was in deficit due to the suspension on the Navy and the Army, and kind of Georgia Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And Bülow proposed an indirect tax increase.
Yeah.
And also inheritance taxes. But
What's the key to this, Remy? Is it a bit of a compromise again?
probably will be. Which is good, by the way. I always endorse compromising. But the indirect taxes were kind of opposed by the SPD because they affected the poor.
Indirect taxes on like duty on goods and stuff, which is going to hurt the poor because they buy goods.
Conservatives, impose increasing inheritance taxes that affected the wealthy.
Yeah.
So they didn't really achieve much, which I guess could be against compromise. But the deficit continued.
Basically, he tried to be bad. He tried to say, I'll do something which will make both parties unhappy, and hopefully they'll both go with it. But unfortunately, that failed.
Yeah. Just a little addition into foreign policy, because we're getting to the Hottentot elections of 1907. But in 1904 there was a Herero uprising in Africa.
Germany had built a bit of a colony, but
yeah,
not that big.
It was kind of
We're talking
by our British standards, we laugh.
Yeah, so I cackled.
We cackle. But effectively, the Africans rose up, and there was a policy of extermination almost between the African population.
It bordered on genocide.
Yeah, 80,000 comes to 15,000 size, and the Centre Party really opposed this. Catholic missionaries doing good. They
For once, I might say.
I didn't say that. They were just outraged by the by the death and destruction, and this shows that Weltpolitik was not a unifying force within Germany at this time.
However, von Bülow wanted to kind of exploit the fact that the Centre Party and the SPD were opposing his. They opposed his budget, and now they're opposing his policy in South Africa, and that's how it leads on to the Hottentot election of 1907. And he basically put his government's policy on being really nationalist and imperialist, vitriol, kind of similarities to the Boer War, some might say.
You could,
the Khaki election of 1900. But so he played on the kind of anti-socialist, anti-Catholic, nationalist card of 1907, and he was in many ways successful. We see Social Democrats, their percentage of vote decreased by 2%, although
the SPD went from 81 to 45 seats,
which perhaps displays the fact that maybe this wasn't a particularly fair representation in the Reichstag. The percentage of their vote went down by 2%, yet they lost a good 40 seats. Interesting. They were still actually They still actually won the most percentage of the votes in the Reichstag, but were now vastly outnumbered by Conservatives, and the Centre Party held their ground, but the Conservative parties did well. That was the key. So now von Bülow had a kind of right-wing coalition. It was dubbed the Bülow Bloc. So we're talking about Conservatives and right-wing liberals. So you think in 1907, von Bülow's in a strong position. He's got a powerful right-wing bloc in the Reichstag,
Definitely.
and he was successful in the 1907 election. However, what happens next is not so good for Bülow.
It was basically a very fragmented coalition.
Yeah, they didn't really hold together.
So by 1908, Bülow's government was not so much controlling events, but at the mercy of them.
Yeah.
Which leads us to the end of this episode.
End of von Bülow.
If you have a thirst, a hunger, or any of those cliche terms you may have put on your personal statement, to find out what happens next to Bülow and what happens in foreign policy, such as the Daily Telegraph affair.
Yeah, that's right. Our very own Daily Telegraph played a big
Exactly.
part in German history.
Which makes me proud and makes me want to go and read it.
It does, even if it's the Tory graph.
Yes. But yeah, if you have a hunger for that, please join us in the next
4.
episode. And who knows what piece of music we will start with.
And I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed today. That I certainly enjoyed making it.
I have got a great big smile on my face. So
Goodbye,
thank you
viewers.
and
Goodbye,
goodbye.
Ellie.
Goodbye, Nathan.